Hello everybody, my name is Bob Umlas, and in the way of an introduction, before we get into the cool tips and tricks I have for you, I've been an Excel MVP for 25 years, beginning in 1993 at the beginning of the program, and I've been using Excel since version 0.99, which existed on the Macintosh. So I've been using Excel since that time, full-time in my few jobs I've had since then, and I want to give you some tips and tricks. I hope you enjoy them. Okay, so on this tab I have, first of all, many of these tips come from my book This Isn't Excel, It's Magic, which you can find by typing the word Umlas into Amazon.com. But I thought I'd just show you my car. It's my old car, but I kept the license plate. On this tab, however, the 39%, I have some range names. That's kind of big, so let me reduce it on the View tab. Let's go down to 50%. And that's a range name called Welcome. There's one called To. There's one called Excel. And one called Tips and Tricks. Now it turns out that if you zoom to 39% or less, these range names will show up right in the worksheet. It says 39%, there it is. Welcome to Tips and Tricks. If I create a new name, I'll call this New Name. Just by doing that, there it is, New Name, it shows up. That's a good thing to use in workbooks you inherit. Take a quick look and see what range names people use. Single cell range names are not shown, so if I give that one cell ZZZZ, you don't see a ZZZZ in there. Okay, next one, page setup copies. I also have some quick formatting tips, which perhaps you know, but we'll see. So I have page setup in here. That gives me this. Let me not zoom. It's landscape. It has a center header. It has a right footer, rows and columns, headings are shown, grid lines are shown, etc. If that's what I want, and then I have another tab that has some data in it, clearly, but hasn't done any page setup. It's just the standard portrait and nothing special. What if I wanted to copy the page setup from this tab to this tab or other tabs as well? What I do is I put it in group mode. So I'm holding this, the control key down, and I click on that. And if I wanted others, I can click on those as well. And if I wanted all, I can right mouse click and do select all sheets, but I'm not going to do that. The sheet that's active is the one, the sheet that you want to copy the page setups from should be the active sheet. Then all I need to do is go to the page layout tab, click on the dialog launcher, and just click OK. I am done. So if I go to this Need page setup, actually let me just ungroup the sheets, and I visit the print preview, there it is. And I happen to have done that with totals as well, and there it is. Okay, back to these. Quick formatting. I'm going to select this, and if I do Control plus Shift plus 1, you'll see I get numeric with 2 decimal places. Control Shift 2 gives me a time. Oops, not on this one. Control Shift 2, I did have 2. Control Shift 2 is the time. Control Shift 3 gives me a date. This format is a date I never use, but that's the one you get. Control Shift 4 is currency. I should say a $sign. It's not necessarily the currency version. However, you can remember that because on a US keyboard there's a $sign on the 4. Control Shift 5 is percent. There's a percent sign on the 5. Control Shift 6 gives scientific notation, and there's a raised to the power symbol on the 6. Control Shift tilde, which is the key to the left of the number 1, again this is US keyboard, is changed in general format. Control Shift 7 puts a border around your selection, so I'm just going to click away, and if I have multiple selections, Control Shift 7 will put a border on all of them. It's always a thin line border. And Control-Shift minus will remove the border. If I want to remove all borders, I can click on here and Control-Shift minus. Okay. This tab we'll look at later. That's what's called Bob Later 1. But all the ones that have Bob in it have just A1 through B2 has numbers. We'll get back to that. AutoSum. If you have a group of numbers like this and you want to put totals here and totals here, most people start here, do Alt equals or Alt equals equals, which enters it, then double click the fill handle, then come here, Alt equals equals, and then drag it off to the right. I've always suggested to Microsoft that a shift double click the fill handle should fill to the right, especially since we have 16,000 and change columns, but they haven't done that yet. So that's probably the way most of you would do it. I'm going to undo all that, and I'll show you a much quicker way. I make this selection, extra row plus extra column, and a simple Alt equals does the exact same thing. Creating totals. Here I have a bunch of numbers, and then every so often I have a subtotal. But I'm using the sum function, not the subtotal function. This is not what I would do, but let's say I've inherited this worksheet. So every one of these looks like this, and it goes on and on and on. And then eventually we get to the bottom. I want to create the grand total. And how do you create the grand total? Well, there are several ways. One that I've seen very often is something like this, where to create it, you actually type an equal sign, then do click on there, scroll, hit the plus sign, click, scroll, plus sign, click, scroll, etc. Now, it does produce the right answer if you've selected the right ones, but it certainly can lead to errors if you miss it, and you may even miss a whole cell completely. I've actually seen formulas like this where it takes 2 or more lines to show it. There's so much in it. Don't do it that way. Another way is to use the SUMIF. The SUMIF of if A1 to A133 each has the word subtotal, add up the corresponding B1 to B133. That works. Another one, a sum product. Sum product, the syntax is to use array, 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 but these must all be numeric arrays, which is why this end function, because this part of it will be a bunch of trues and falses. And it wouldn't work, because again, it must be numeric. So the n of false is 0, the n of true is 1, so this now becomes a numeric array. And then, of course, the results in B1 to B133 are numeric, so then a corresponding, it multiplies these together, it'll multiply the 1 by the, whichever one that was, the 456. Multiply this one by the 720, etc. And that works fine. Here's another one, the sum. Now, instead of clicking plus plus plus, this was actually done. It's probably the fastest way to do it. You just click in that cell to the grand total area, and just do Alt equals, and Excel will find all those sum formulas for you. That's the fastest way to enter it, but it's not the coolest. The coolest is to do equals the sum of the entire range, B1 through B133, add them all up and divide by 2. Now, let me just show you why that works. Let's go to the top. This subtotal of 456, of course, sums up these cells. So these add to 456, and here's a 456. So that's 912. That's double the 456. So everything in here is a selection of, is the sum of numbers twice. That's what they add up to plus the sum function. So these add up to 720. And here's a 720, that's in there twice, etc. So we just add them all up and divide by 2. Okay. This one is kind of interesting. It was sent to me fairly recently by someone I didn't know, and it wound up in my junk email. I don't know why. but I found it. And what he wanted to do is to be able to find all the particular cells called find this, for example. This goes way out to column AAW, which happens to be column 725. So he wanted to be able to select all of these. It wasn't just find this, it was something else, so that he could easily hide those columns. So I did this. I did a Control F for find. I typed find this, and I did a find all. There were 91 of them. Then from here I do Control A to select them all, and they're all selected. Let me close, and notice all the way out to column AAU is selected. And if I go back to the beginning, that's all selected. So I gave it a name. Let's say I type it in here. I'll do FT for find this cells. FT cells. Okay, now I'm going to go to FT cells. And notice it stops at KM. KU is not listed. LC is not listed. And the reason is, if I go to the name manager and I look at FT cells, this is too long. It has too many characters in it to hold it. So if you ever come across something like this, what you could do is break it into pieces. So I did 725, I think that number was. So let's say it's 750. So we'll break it into thirds. So I'm going to, well, it doesn't matter. Starting from here, I'm going to do a go to an offset. Now that might be a tip in itself. You can actually go to an offset. So I'm doing an offset of A6, 0 rows down, 0 columns over, in a shape of 1 by 250. Click OK. Now in that range, which ends in column IP, I'll do a find all, select all, close, and give that a name, like FT part 1. And it ended here. So the next one I want to go to is, let's say, IJ. And I go to offset of IJ 6001 by 250. OK. Do a find and click find all, select all, close, and give that a name. I forgot what I called it already. FT part 1. To make this FT part 2. And luckily it keeps me at the last one. So I'm going to go to RX. I don't have to click on it first. I'm going to go to offset of RX 6001 by 250. Click OK. Do a find all, select them all, close it, and make it FT part 3. Now in the defined name, I'll call it FT all, and the refers to is equal FT part 1, comma, FT part 2, comma, FT part 3, and that makes the union of this, except I need to have PA. Okay, click OK, and if I go to FT all, I find that I have them all. So you can break it up. And what he wanted to do with this when he had it, just go quickly to the Visual Basic and put in the immediate window range FT all dot entire column dot hidden equals true. And that's what he wanted to do, and you don't see them anywhere because they're all hidden. And of course he did this by buttons, etc. Okay, this is the same thing. Okay, this one also goes out to there. What if I wanted to scroll? You ever try scrolling the distance by using the mouse? And if I scroll out to the very end, it'll take a fair amount of time. And actually I've timed it. and it took about 14 seconds. So I'm not going to do that. But the tip I want to give is if the window is smaller. So if I just take this window, which is small, and I scroll, if I scroll outside the window itself, it scrolls a lot more quickly. And there it is. Got there in about 5 seconds. Okay. This next one is all the characters in a font set. So this column A is Arial, B is Sentry, C is Tahoma, Wingdings, and Webdings. You can use more, of course. And I just want to show you a couple of things in here. Every cell in here, from row 2 down, says char of row. And it goes down to row 255. How you can take advantage of, make use of this, is for the special symbols. That's the way I use it. I mean, obviously, if I want this little bus or whatever it is, I can type equals char of 118 and make sure it's a Webdings font. But that's not how I'm going to demo this. How about the euro symbol? What's the best way to type a euro symbol? Well, it turns out if you know the row number where it is, you can actually just type the row number with a couple of tricks to it. You type it with a leading 0, so 0, 128. But while I'm doing that, I hold down the Alt key. So I would hold the Alt key, type 0, 128, and I also have to type it on the numeric keypad. If you don't have it on the numeric keypad, there are little numbers in the characters M, J, K, L in the middle of your keyboard, and you have to access those little characters by holding down the, I believe it's the function key as well. So I'm now holding down the Alt key. I type 0, 128, and as soon as I let go, there it is, the euro symbol, directly. So maybe you have some other favorite ones, like the pound sterling. That's not the pound sterling. Yeah, 163. Alt 0163, let go. And you can do it like the, let's say, 92, Alt 0176, which is the degree symbol, 92 degrees. A couple of rows down, etc. So you can hang this up in your computer, and you want the special characters, you can do it that way. Now at the very top, I also had, to make a bullet, all you need to do is Alt 7. I mean, it's also 49, I believe. No. Well, whatever it is. There's a bullet in that list somewhere. But Alt 7 will give you a bullet. 7 on the numeric keypad. That's what the NK stands for. Again, 3, 4, 5, 6 will give you cards of the deck. They don't come out red. I colored them red before, so Alt 3 just gives me a black heart, etc. And this is, did you ever have lots of checkboxes on your sheet and you need to hide some rows? The checkboxes don't hide very well, and they get piled on top of each other. But instead of using an actual checkbox, you could use these symbols. It's a O and a, I don't know what that symbol is, but I have a little bit of VBA in the background. So I go to View Code, and if the font is Wingdings, then if it's the O, make it that character, else if it's that character, make it an O. So it has to be a Wingdings font, and then you can make it narrow and put what the checkbox means next to it. Okay, here's another for later, Bob. It's full of 2s. We'll get back to it. Distribute. If I have these two numbers and I need to fill it with some number, turns out I need to fill it with 30.7851, and if I fill that in, it will add up and give me the 554. This was the actual difference between the 123 and the 554 divided by what rows they're in. So once you figure that out, you can do, let's do it over here, equals this plus this, and I'll fix that. Let's make it solid. And then I'm going to fill it down, but now I want to change the format to D2. And when I fill this all the way down, it ends up at 554. So that works but it's a little nuisance to try to remember how to do this. Matter of fact, if I drag this up, of course, by the formula, it's going to change. What's cool is you can do it without the figuring out what the number is by selecting this range. And on the Home tab, if you go to Fill Series, Excel fills it in for you. Same number. Let's bring this back to row 15. I select both of these, go to Fill Series. There it is. That whole 30.75, etc. That's kind of cool too. Okay, moving right along. This one literally came to me in a dream when they kind of first announced dynamic arrays. I have a range name called FL. I have a leading quote in front of it, but if I just get rid of that and hit the Enter key, I get all the files in this current directory. That's pretty cool. If I want only Excel files, I have just another range name called FLX. Hit Enter. Is it the same things but only Excel versions, only Excel whatevers, Excel XSL, Excel SX, etc. And here's one for tab names. This is the tab names in this file. There's the 39%. Here's the, and it's also alphabetic. Here's the files, etc., the tab we're on. So let me show you how I did it, though, what the defined names are. And I can do that by unhiding this. So FL is defined as the transpose of files. If I didn't do transpose, it would be a horizontal range, which I don't want. Files is an old XL4 macro language command, and since I started with XL 0.99, I've gone through XL4 macros, and I remembered that files was one of the commands that gives you a list of all the files in the current directory. So I dreamt that, hey, if I did that, since the dynamic arrays works, maybe it'll just do it, and I was totally thrown. Actually, Leila Garani has a video of this, and she starts up by saying, this one totally floored me. Okay, FLX is defined as the transpose of the files, but I gave it a wildcard.xl star. So it only gives me Excel files. I can do doc files that way, etc. And the tab names, I did the sort of the transpose of the mid of the get workbook 1, etc. Get workbook 1, in fact, gives all the tab names, but it has a lot more in it. I could do that right now. Let's just get workbook 1. Let's define a name. Call it tab demo, and just say it equals get.workbook 1 tab demo. If I do equals tab demo, I probably should have done transpose. Yeah, let's do transpose in here. Transpose of tab demo, and it gives the name of the workbook, which is master TNT XLSM, and then all the file names. So I'm looking for that character, since they all end in here, and I want the one after that, the character after that. So the mid from that character to the end, transpose it, sort it, and then you get that. So this is a pretty cool way to get a table of contents. Okay, this one is just like fun, and I think Microsoft has not even figured out how this is done. This is just a picture of A1 to F16. To prove it, I'll go to F16 and put a ZZ, and there's a ZZ at the end. To do that, I use the camera tool, which I put on my QAT, which you can look for camera in when you do customized quick access toolbar. So I move it over here. You can see that it's on top of itself. It's a mirror image. If you ever look in front of a mirror, of course, you see this kind of thing. What's weird, and nobody has been able to explain what's happening, if I type something else in this cell, I typed the 4 again, let's type a 6. There's the 6, but the old 4s are still in there. 7, 8, 9. That's weird. Go back to 4. Type a hello. It's like it's keeping a history of whatever I typed. I move it away, the hello propagates again, and a third time, 4, 5, etc. It's just fun. Okay, entering totals. Here I have January, the percent of the quarter total, which is over here, then February, March, and then the quarter total, then April, May. And I want to put totals here, but I don't want a total of percentages. I want totals here, and here, and here, and here, and here, so it's not the same pattern. You can do that by selecting that extra blank to the right, and then use the fill handle up to the quarter. Then, with that selected, I use the fill handle to go to the end. And it doesn't bother putting the totals in the places I don't want them. Okay. Changing row height. If I print preview this, and there's not much data here, what I want is a visual effect that when the department changes, I want a space. So I don't want to actually insert a row. I want this row to be higher. So I'm going to do that by this technique. And to go to Special, if I select either constants or formulas, I have 4 different options: numbers, text, logicals, and errors. I'm going to pick 2 at random. I'll do logicals and errors. I've never done logicals and errors before. I'll use those 2 in a formula. This cell, row 3, is the first location that might have a new departments. So I'm going to say if the cell above and to the left is not equal to the cell to the left, then, so I'm going to do logical, true. I'm not going to do false either, I just need logical. And then errors, I'll do NA. And fill it down. I get a true whenever the department changes. So now I can take advantage of that and go back to go to Special, and I'm looking for formulas, and I just want the true, so I just deselect the errors. I could deselect numbers and text, but there aren't any. I made this formula, so I don't have to deselect them. I'm looking just for logicals, and now all the logicals, however far down it goes, are selected. And while that's the case, I go to Format, Row Height, and let's double it about and get 31. Then I can get rid of this or hide it. And now when I print preview, it looks much nicer. Okay, something like that. I'm going to double space. This goes down to row 850, lots of stuff. And I want to physically insert a row between each one. So I don't want just to change the row height, that would be trivial. I go there, and I go there, and this is going to take a while. Even if I wrote a macro to do that, that would take a little while. So I've come up with a technique that I can, no matter how many rows there are, at least no more than half of 1048576 rows, I could do it in about 7 seconds, but that would not be very instructive. So let me show you how I do it. And that's an extra tip in here. I want to number all these. Most people type in a 1 and a 2 and then double click the fill handle. I want to show you don't have to. You can just type the 1. However, if I use the fill handle, I get only 1s, which is why people type a 1 and a 2. But if I make that selection, extra blank, I get the 2, 3. So I'm going to double click it, copy, control down arrow, take it to the first blank, paste. So now I have 2 sets of numbers from 1 to 850. Next to this number 1 is blanks. Next to the number 2 is blanks, etc. I just have to click somewhere in here, and on the Data tab, Sort, and I have double spaced everything. I sorted the blank rows into place. Just get rid of column E, and it's done. I go to the bottom. There it is. Here's another bob. We ignore that for now as well. I think we're about to explore that, yes. So let's look at the bob thing. Ignore all the stuff that's on here now. This formula, which has a leading apostrophe before it, says the sum of single quote, asterisk, bob, asterisk, single quote, exclamation, A1 to B2. It's like it's finding any tab name that has Bob in it. If I get rid of that, and when I hit the Enter key, it found all the tab names. There's Bob later 1, 4 later Bob, and another Bob. So this is not dynamic. This is like a one-time shot. Because if I add another tab that says Bob in it, that's not going to change this routine. But it's a cool thing, cool trick. Okay, if you're ever typing really large numbers, like a million or a billion, you don't have to type and count the number of zeros you're putting in. So if I want to type, let's do a million in here. I can just do 1E6 and hit enter, and there's a million. 1E12, I got a trillion. I don't have to count them. Okay. Format Painter, you're all familiar with that, but did you know you can use the Format Painter on shapes? I'm going to turn this arrow into this arrow. I'm going to click on this, Format Painter, boom. Format Painter again, click on this. Doesn't change the heart, but it changes, I mean, it's still a heart, but it changes the outline. So you can do that for shapes, it's pretty cool. Control period. So if I have any rectangular range, control period successively goes around the corners, clockwise. So if I have this selected, and let's say it's much, much longer than that, and I realize, oh, I don't want the titles included. How I could either reselect it by starting at this cell and dragging down, and in this case I might actually do that, but if it went down to row 6000, I wouldn't want to do that and keep dragging. And if I didn't remember the exact end, I don't want to do, type a range name because I don't remember exactly what row it is. What I could do is control period, takes me to the right, control period again, takes me to the bottom right, then shift down arrow. Watch what happens. Titles are no longer selected. So as long as I'm holding down the shift key, the anchor cell the active cell is anchored. Now, in case you didn't know, and I think you do, if I double-click the Format Painter, I just put it in my QAT. I don't like going back to Home to have to get to the Format Painter. But if I double-click it, it notice there's a little paintbrush next to it. So I can click here and drag, and it stays active. I can get rid of the effect by hitting the Escape key or hitting the Format Painter again. I did the Escape. You're all familiar with the standard normal comments that are now called notes in Excel, in Microsoft 365, Excel 365, whatever. But did you ever want to make a comment or note that looks like that? Or that? So I want to show you how to make fancy comments. So let's start with this one. First, I must select the comment. So if I go to the Review tab, and it's on the Notes now, I can edit the note. It would be Edit the Comment, and there it is. But you notice there's a cursor blinking inside it. So I need to select the border so there's no cursor. Then I can Control 1 brings up the Format Comment dialog. Now I don't know why they hid this, but if I go to Colors and Lines, and then I click on the drop-down for color, there are fill effects. In the fill effects, I can change the gradient. I can, from that color through this color, or the texture. It's funny to have one with a fish in it, or the pattern, or a picture. So I'm going to select the picture, and I can do it from my computer, or I can search Bing for, let's say, a lion. I hit enter, and let's take that lion, insert, and OK, and OK, and there's my comment with the lion in it. So let's go back and select it again, and I want to change its shape. So to do that, you need to change shape, which I have again from my QAT. Now let's switch windows here. Change shape. So you can modify your QAT by going to the right mouse click, customize QAT, and you want to change shape. So let's change it to an arrow to the right. And then I can make it bigger. And now when I hover over that comment, I get that. So no more boring comments. This thing about the registry, you can save things in the registry very easily through VBA, and you can pass information from one workbook to another over several days. That is, after you've closed Excel down, you can actually read the information that you've saved from another workbook. So it says nothing yet because I didn't put anything in the registry. So let's see what this is. Assign macro, edit, the get registry. I'm doing a message box on get setting. Now if I just do get setting space, I'm looking for an application name which you can make up, a section name which you can make up, a key which you can make up, and a default. So just for this demo, I'm using A for both the app name, section name, and key name. So I'm doing the get setting. The default is nothing yet. If there isn't anything in there, it's nothing yet. So let's say I'm going to save this information. I'm going to save very cool. And I'll just run that. So now if I run this, very cool. And if I exit Excel and come back and just do the get setting for AAA, it'll come up with very cool. Now you could totally ignore what's in the registry and just keep on saving to it forever and ever. I don't know if or when you will fill it up, but it's a good idea to delete it when you're totally done ever using it. So delete setting, and now if I go back to the registry and get setting, it says nothing yet. Okay, merge. How did I merge each row in A to E? So these are merged cells, but they're not merged together. They're just merged one at a time. And I think I went down to row 100. Yep, row 100. How did I do that? Well, I could have done it one at a time. Select A through E. Oh, let me unmerge this. I'll do that. Home. Unmerge cells. So now nothing is merged. But I want to do that. How do I do it from the beginning? I don't want to select A1 to E1, merge and center. A2 to E2, merge and center. There's the drop down here. It says merge across does exactly that. And why is it taking? Okay, it's done. Doesn't merge across does. Okay. What happened to my even row numbers? I see row 2, row 1, and 2 is gone. 3 and 4 is gone, etc. Well, they're not actually gone. If I do that, you'll see this is what happened. Because in column E, actually let me just clear everything. Home, clear all, and you see it's back to normal. How I did that is I clicked in E2, E doesn't matter what column, but I happen to use that, and changes to like 120. Then I selected E1 and E2, and I dragged the fill handle way down. Then I go back home, select everything, and watch what happens when I try to make the height the same as row 1. Watch what happens to the 2. It's now disappearing, and that's how I do it. Okay, this one is fun. If you write code in which you have a long process, something that takes a minute or longer, and you want to give a message to the user, you often put it in the bottom left. I'll just do that quickly on the Visual Basic. I will say application dot status bar equal please wait. And so you run your routine starts, and as it gets to a place where it's going to take a while, you have a please wait message for the user to see, and when it's done, you clear it. And you clear it by saying false. You don't put in quote, quote, or you'll never see another message in there. So you say it's false. It doesn't turn off the status bar, it just takes the message off. The problem is, that's very easy to miss. So how about this? Now I'm not actually running a routine. What this wait is doing is just does the technique I'm about to show you, and then when it's done, it waits 5 seconds, and when it's done, it restores the message. Here's the message. Can't miss that. And then it goes away after 5 seconds. So I put it in the ribbon, and how I did that, let's look at the message from the routine. I have in 5 seconds, there's 86,400 seconds in a day, so 5 over that. I'm saying wait no longer, which is this routine. I make sure I'm in the correct directory, changing directory to this workbook's path, and I open my XLAM, which is my ribbon file, which I set up previously, saved it as an XLAM, and all that does is does a wait. Now I believe I did this right. Let's see. I'm going to put a breakpoint here. I'm going to run it again. So it says please wait. And in 5 seconds, it's trying to do that, but I'm going to stop it. So in case during your routine you get a macro error, you're leaving the person with this. Now what do they do? Well, I believe if I did this right, and I should have, and maybe I didn't, I have every one of these. Type mismatch. Interesting. But, okay, I didn't set it up right. Every one of these is trying to run something, which I did not put the code in, but every one of them runs this same wait no longer routine. So I'm going to just run this now, so that if they just click on any command in there, it comes back this way. Okay, let's move along. Mailing labels 1. Suppose you have mailing labels that look like this. You have Jones, last name, comma, first name, and address, city, state, and zip. Then sometimes you have a post office, so it's not all the same size. There's 5 rows here, an email, etc. And you want to sort them by last name. Obviously, if I try to sort these now, go to data sort, I just got a big mess. So I'm going to undo that. How do you sort these by last name? Well, that's the purpose of how I'm going to show you to do that. How I'm going to show you to do that. Okay, I forgot how to speak English. Excuse me. So I click on row 1. I'm going to insert a row. And then I'm going to put in here if the cell to the left and above, if A1 is equal to nothing. Then I know I'm starting a new set of addresses. So I'm going to click on John Jones. Otherwise, if it's not the case, if I'm already in an address, I'm going to pick up the cell above. Now right now, this just picks up John Jones. Let's use that format painter. And if I fill it down, and I fill it down with that extra blank at the end, this is perfectly ready for sorting. So let's look at this. This one we know how it works, but this one, if the cell to the left and above, which is John Jones, is blank, which it is not, so it's going to pick up the cell above. And over here, the cell to the left and above is blank, so it picks up Jane Addams. So now it's ready to sort, and now I get rid of column B. And I might as well get rid of row 1. And we have them sorted by last name. Mailing labels 2. I want these to say name 1, address 1, city, state, zip 1, blank, and on and on and on. And I don't know, I'll do it here. Actually, I'm going to do it. Oops. Okay, I'm going to do it in column E. So if I tried equals A1 there, and then I tried equals B1, and I tried equals C1, and then I got clever and included the extra blank, when I fill down, I did not get what I want. What happened to name 2, 3, and 4, 6, 7, and 8, etc. So that doesn't work. But this does. Instead of the equals A1, I just do A1. Instead of B1, equals B1, I just do B1. And then C1. Well, there's not much I can do with that. But how about an XA1? XB1. XC1. You'll see how this works in a moment. I include that, and now if I drag down, that's so far looking very promising. So let's go all the way. Now, there are 30 rows here, but each one's going to be 4, so I need to go down to row 120. I got to start from the beginning, sorry. Just from these 4, go down to 120. This will work. I've done it before. Notice I have the correct ones. So now I can do a replace. I'm replacing X with equal. Replace all. Done. Mailing labels 3. So here I want to get, here I already have them this way and I want to get them across. It's like the reverse. So here I have A1, A2, A3, and then I have A5, because I'm skipping the blank, A6 and A7. But if I fill these down, a mess. Same kind of thing. So if I get rid of the equal sign, change equal to nothing, and replace all, I don't need the X because it's all, I have A's in each one. If I drag this down, you see it works great. Now I can replace A with equals A. Replace all, and I have just what I need. Now, I could use a new dynamic array function called sequence to do the same thing. So here I have, let's just get rid of that so you can see a little better. It's a leading quote, so we see the formula. The index of all of A, I'm going to sequence 160 over 4. Now why 160? Because I know that that was the bottom of the last address. I know 160 over 4 is just 40, but I could have done, if I didn't, I could do it this way. I'm dividing by 4, and I want it in a sequence of 4s. So if I do that, that works too. A little easier. So let's just take another look at just the sequence part. Copy, and just type in here equals sequence. Oops. Interesting. Oh, that's right. Let's get rid of this. Okay. So sequence 160, 4 rows, 4 columns, does that. And I use these numbers as the index of column A. So I get the 1, 2, 3, nothing, etc. Moving along. Fill right and down. Okay, there's no formulas in here, not yet. This one has a formula, the only one. If I want to fill this to the right, actually let me get rid of this for now. If I want to fill this to the right and have it be here's the information, etc., that's not going to work. Now I could use offset, I could copy and paste transpose, etc., but I just want to show you another trick again without the equal sign. If I drag this to the right, I get A1 through A8, which are the references I want. Again, I replace A with equals A, replace all, and I got it. Okay, so let's put this in as values. And let's say this isn't here. And I want over here to fill, if I do equals B1, and fill it down, I want to get C1, D1, E1. How do I do that? Obviously not that way. And I can't just do just the letter B1, because how do I make B1 become C1 by filling it down? I want to get B2, B3. I want to get C1, etc. Well, here's the way I came up with. I'm going to do R1, C1 notation. And here, without the equal sign, R, row 1, column 2. That's this. When I fill this down, I get row 1, column 2, down to row 1, column 9. In order to take advantage of that, I have to go to Tools Options, that's old, File Options, down to Formulas, and turn on R1C1 reference style. So now the columns are now numbers. If I had tried this, put the equals in here, without converting to R1C1 notation, that would be an invalid formula. It wouldn't like it. So now all I have to do, is replace, so what happened to my selection? Replace R with equals R. Replace all. Got it. Change back to A1 notation, not R1, C1, and you see B1, C1, D1, etc. Okay, running out a little bit. Let's pick and choose from here. Oh yeah, what's this? This is a sea creature. What sea creature is it? And for you, Liam, because you like puns, this is calamari. Calamari. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. All right, the space operator. So I have named ranges in here, I believe. Yeah, so it's east is that. I have things is that. I named them easily by selecting all that. And under formulas, create from selection, top row and left column is how I created those names. They're changing because they're random numbers. And I just want to show you the intersection operator. So if I say west space gizmos, it's where west intersects with gizmos, which is why it says 75. But what if I wanted to do it by referencing? I want objects and east. This even works. The indirect of A12, which is objects, space indirect of A13. So this is east objects. East objects has the 23. If I do east things, I get 39. East things, etc. Okay, filling holes. Supposing I want to sort this by state or even region within state. Again, if I do that, I'm going to get a big mess. If I select Control A, select that, I go to Data, Sort, and I'm going to sort by state, add a level, then by region. Click OK. Purely a mess. Obviously, I have to fill in these gaps. So if I do a go to special, I can go to the blanks, and without touching the keyboard, without changing the selection, I do an equals and hit the up arrow. Now, when you have a multiple selection, whatever you enter, if you hold the control key, will be filled with that. So this is saying a relative reference to the cell above. Control enter, it's now ready. So I can go to, let's go back to that sort by state, add a level, then by region, click OK. It's now sorted by state within region, and then I can also go to formulas, and then select formulas and hit the delete key to put it back in the original notation format. Okay, I have very little left here. By the way, the tab named history, this has history with a space at the end. You can't use that because it's a reserved word, reserved name. Okay, ignoring that. Leave that alone. Let's see what else I want to do here. Well, the right-click fill handle, you probably know. If I right-click fill handle, I get a bunch of options. So I can fill this down without formatting. Obviously, without formatting, and then no longer dates. So let's make it dates. Good. Short date. Fine. Undo. I could go up by months. Actually, let's make this whole thing a date format. So if I click on here and I go up by months, that works. This is the number 25. I forget why I have 25 in here, but again, if I make that extra selection, it'll go up by ones. Sorting columns. If I want this to be name, address, city, state, zip, which it isn't now, I can sort the columns, but I have to first insert a row so I can put them in the sequence I want. I want name, that's 1, then address, 2, city, 3, state, 4, zip, 5, and now I select all this and I do data sort, but here I said click on options and I sort left to right. Click OK, sort by row 1, click OK, it's sorted in that sequence, and I get rid of that. Very little left. Actually, it's probably good to stop here. If you want to read me with questions, these are all my books. This is a Kindle book. This book is my latest one, and when you finish reading this book, you'll be ready for Excel for Dummies. This is for perhaps for your spouse or for someone you know who just doesn't get it about Excel. You can reach me via email for any questions or comments. If you really want to give me a call, you can do that. I'm available for training and or consulting. And here, I hope you enjoyed all these tips. So let me stop this recording.